I pride myself in keeping up with the most promising games coming out each month. It's pretty rare that one actually slips by, but that's exactly what happened with a new real-time strategy game that touts a solid narrative and insanely addicting brick-by-brick building system. My name is Kodiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and today we're breaking down one of my new favorite games of 2024, Cataclismo. Cataclismo might go down as one of the most interesting games I play this year. I'd even go so far as to say it might end up being one of the most interesting games I'll ever play, period. That is high praise for a seemingly unknown game. The only reason I found out about Cataclismo was because of an email I received from the publisher, Hooded Horse. I'll admit, I was a bit bored, and when I found out that the developer Digital Sun was also behind Moonlighter and The Mage Seeker, I knew I had to give it a try. For the sake of this review, I'm going to assume you know nothing about this game, because unlike many other titles, there's been virtually no pre-release marketing to even attempt to bring this game into the spotlight. So here's the headline. Cataclismo blends real-time strategy with city building and base defense in a way I have never seen before. It's brilliantly addicting with unlimited potential due to its clever design that can be expanded upon well into the future. Is it possible a game like this can come out of nowhere and surprise us with excellence? Absolutely. But was I expecting it? Certainly not. The Cataclismo gameplay experience is spread across a few distinct modes at this point. First is the campaign, which is a narrative-driven adventure that challenges you in a number of unique scenarios. Sometimes you'll lead troops in small expeditions that focus primarily on driving the story forward. Other times you'll be in full-blown base-building mode, gathering resources and defending your stronghold from the horrors of night in a wave-style defense mission. There are even some side missions that treat the game like a tower defense, and it's up to you to position your troops and build your defenses using limited resources. The story is relatively simple at this point, but very much on brand for Digital Sun. Small vignettes explore various parts of the ongoing saga, and they're delivered in a few different ways which further enhance the delivery of the story itself. It's all a bit too vague and science fiction-y for my taste, but you might be into that. If I were to compare it to anything, I'd say the story moments are told almost like a visual novel. The thing about the game, though, is that its foundational design lends itself to a ton of flexibility, and that's apparent outside of the campaign mode as well. At early access launch, the game will also have an endless mode, and man did I get sucked into this. In this mode, you'll have access to the entire range of buildings, troops, and upgrades, but not at first. As you survive each night, the game gets progressively harder, but also rewards you with points that you can allocate across the entire menu of unlockables. It's up to you to determine what you choose to unlock and when, and this is surprisingly difficult given how many things there are to unlock. There's also a skirmish mode, which is limited at this point, but challenges players with a one-off experience with a distinct start and end point, which I think some will appreciate, especially if they don't want to slog it out in endless mode. There's also a level editor, which I'll straight up admit is not my thing. I am just not creative in that way, but it's amazing to think that people can create custom skirmishes and endless maps within the game right at early access launch. Even with a small community, that alone can help sustain Cataclismo long term, which shouldn't be undersold. Where the game is going to leave its mark and ultimately win over fans is with its building. This is every LEGO kid's dream RTS because Cataclismo lets you build entire castles brick by brick, and that entire experience is built off a simple core idea. Workstations you build passively collect wood, stone, and ore, and those feed into the various building blocks needed to defend your stronghold at the center of your base. Wood is easier and more plentiful to harvest, but provides little to no defensive value. It's used more strategically to create vantage points for your troops, or in some cases modify the terrain in a way that suits your nature. Stone is where you get pure defensive value with higher and thicker walls, providing you and your troops more protection from the onslaughts of horror. Your stronghold is often exposed from multiple sides, which means you'll need to identify and fortify multiple sides of your base from attack. You can do this using individual bricks, and because you can pause the game and build without the pressure of the day-night cycle, this ends up being one of the most fun and creative aspects of the game. There's even a Steam Workshop integration coming with the game that would allow you to build and save structures and then import them into your own game from another creator. At all times, you're building with a goal in mind, to avoid decimation, but you also have the freedom to create without limits. Yes, you are bound by how many resources you have, and that itself is part of the challenge, but the actual act of building is without boundary. Walls alone don't keep your stronghold safe, so you end up having to train various troops to man the defenses. This all plays into the overall strategic puzzle of defending your stronghold, because you can't simply throw hundreds of enemies on your walls. You have to be thoughtful about how you space out your troops. Each troop type also has a very clearly defined role, and it's how you mix and match them that makes them more or less potent. As you gain access to more building blocks, you'll also be able to add elements to your defenses that augment your troops. For example, banners increase the damage of any troop that stands within its vicinity. While adding merlins to a wall, those are the shaped bits on the top that give castles their distinct look, adds a range bonus to the troop station behind them, while also increasing the toughness of the wall itself. All of these elements are interconnected, and once the difficulty of the campaign or endless mode ramps up, you realize quickly that mastering the interplay between the systems is paramount. If you take a step back from defending your stronghold and fortifying the walls with troops, you still have a competent city builder. It's simple and reminds me of my time with Warcraft 3 back in the 2000s. You have to build harvesting stations to collect resources, homes to support the population, a barracks to recruit troops, and various other buildings that provide simple yet permanent upgrades to the units under your control. It's not a wild and crazy system that's trying to push the boundaries. In fact, it's the most straightforward aspect of the entire game, and I think that's by design, because it allows the building and defense strategy a real chance to shine. Cataclismo is at its absolute best because of its creative freedom and endless potential, two things that most games never even come close to achieving. It is a very specific type of game, and I do think that means it's got a niche audience. I wouldn't expect someone that's only ever played Call of Duty to look at Cataclismo and be blown away by everything I've described over the last few minutes. But if you're someone that dabbles in the RTS genre and appreciates when a true gem is released, then Cataclismo checks off a lot of those boxes. One thing I do want to point out is that for an early access game, the experience is really polished, but not perfect. I encountered a pretty nagging bug in the endless mode that prevented the final enemy in a wave to push towards my stronghold. On more than one occasion, I'd have to delete my walls and send a party out to go find that singular enemy, which really disrupts the flow of the action. There was clearly an issue with mob density and the spawn points on these procedurally generated worlds, and it's something the team will definitely want to clean up. I also found that the campaign's difficulty ramped up and down drastically throughout. I completed most missions on medium difficulty and found that to be pretty accurate to what you might expect. Not too hard, not too easy, but on some occasions a mission would just be way harder than the rest. It was just unexpected and probably could have been a smoother experience. Those two things really account for my overall gripes with the game, and for an early access title, that is amazing. Things that are often missing from these types of games, like a clear new player experience, are rock solid, especially if you play through the campaign, which teaches you the core mechanics while being far more interesting than just tutorial panels. That's truly part of the joy I found playing this game, actually learning something new in a video game. Think about it. When's the last time you actually had to do that? Even though I have some institutional knowledge of RTS games, the Cataclismo experience is unique, and that's what helped it stand out. Ultimately, this game is going to live or die based on how much attention it receives. It is a stellar experience, created by a team that clearly understands game development, but it's not for everyone. As someone under no obligation to play, talk, or create content about this game, I want to do my part to spread the word because Cataclismo is special. Its core gameplay loop, which is centered around wave-style horde defenses, mixed with the brick-by-brick building, all the way down to the city-building elements of the game, work in perfect harmony, and that is something I want other people to experience for themselves. So there you have it, our full thoughts on Digital Sun's new early access game, Cataclismo. If you like what you see, go support some indie devs who are doing great work and pick up this game. And of course, if this video helped you make a decision, we appreciate you hitting that thumbs up and subscribing. There are still more games to come in 2024, so keep it right here and never miss a thing. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.